So for our second panel, we are going to be discussing how telcos can overcome these challenges and ensure successful AI scaling. So before we get into our discussion proper, we need to introduce our guests. I'm going to start on my far side by asking David to briefly introduce himself, and we'll come down the line.
Okay, thank you, Guy. So David Warnock from Blue Planet, which is the OSS software division of Ciena. My team, I have a team of solutions architects, and me and my team, we have a very high level of customer engagement. So scale is at the forefront of that, so I'm very interested to hear what the panel discusses today, and also any questions that we get from the audience.
Thanks, David.
Nastasi Karaiskos. I am the Global Vice President for the Telecoms vertical at Wind River.
Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Nabil, and I'm the Global Head of Analytics in Autonomous Network Organization in Nokia. My pleasure to be today in the second panel.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good to see you again, Nabil. And
hi, everyone. It's me again. So from Deutsche Telekom headquarters, I'm SVP Technology Strategy and also responsible for data and AI networks.
fantastic. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Let's get straight in, because as we've stated in the title of this session, scaling is an imperative for ultimate success. And we've just heard, in fact, that telcos face huge difficulties in going from POC to scaling out. Obviously, they do. So what do they need to do to achieve this, and how do they minimize the risks associated with this move towards scaling? David, are you able to start us with some of your thoughts?
Yeah. So our customers are some of the largest telcos across the globe. If you think about fixed line and mobile operators, they have millions of subscribers, right? So very big numbers there already. And also their networks are hugely complex. If you think about, they're very highly virtualized at the moment, especially in things like 5G, which is almost all virtualized now. So they're very, very complex. We have a customer in North America who receives 1 million alarms every day and 2.5 billion performance metrics every hour. Now, how can an operations team deal with that volume? Okay, I'm talking specifically about OSS here. The only way they can deal with it is intelligent automation. You need to get rid of the background noise, and the operations team needs to understand, what's relevant at the moment and how to act upon that. And AI plays a key part in that. So that's the problem statement. If I could offer, maybe at a very high level, 3 ways to address that, certainly in the OSS space. The first thing is platform and applications. I think they need to be cloud native, Vivek talked earlier about AI native, so they need to be able to scale up and scale out and scale down to meet demand even. The next thing is the integration technology. So we need open standardized interfaces. George talked about that in the TM forum. And we're seeing more and more of things like Kafka now as well, which is a great enabler. But also, we're now starting to see agent-to-agent and MCP. And that makes sense, right? So the ability of agents to talk to each other and to get information from external systems, I think, is important. And the final thing, I think, is clean data, right? So AI is known to hallucinate. It will give an answer no matter what. And so in order to give it the best chance of a good answer, I think we need clean data. So I think things like dynamic inventory and inventory federation is important there. We were saying in Blue Planet, you can't AI what you can't see. So it's important to understand, what the clean data is. And also specifically, my background's in assurance. And so my kind of take on that is to do closed loop, you need to understand what the problem is. So accurate root cause is also key there. And I'm also interested in the question of culture as well around that. So I'd like to see how the discussion goes.
Absolutely, David. And we're going to touch on a couple of the areas that you mentioned then in a bit more details as we develop our discussion. But should we just continue down with some initial problem statements and what generally telcos need to do and how they minimize the risk associated?
So scaling AI is well beyond a technology problem. It's an operational challenge. The telecom operators are managing diverse domains across RAN, core, and IT. Each have different workflows, each have unique data performance requirements. And then there are legacy siloed systems that are maybe not AI ready, that do not scale. And then there is the cloud native journey that some operators are now on to transform their networks. And we believe that having a cloud native platform is foundational to scaling AI.
Thanks, Astasi. Nabil?
85% of POCs, either they fail or they fail scaling up to deployment. 75% of time in AI projects are spent on understanding data. 74% of operators, they claim that they have to use 3 or more tools in complex projects to answer the question, what is the problem statement still? These are data that are documented from sources, from analysts, from research. And this is an eye-opener to understand that maybe the problem is much simpler, that we need first to define the problem. We talk about AI, we can talk about hallucination, we can talk about a lot of stuff, even people, the organization, but I think Philippe in the previous session, he mentioned very well, maybe we don't need AI everywhere, maybe sometimes we need AI, sometimes we need agentic AI, but we need to really understand that the data is key in our problem statement. Then we can address it from process, from operation perspective. But that understanding from the entire organization, from the strategy perspective, what is the issue and where AI will help us, I think the driver always will be data in our experience, what we are talking to customers.
Sure, yeah, and those data points you mentioned, they were very, very revealing. Ahmed, we've spoken all day about this, but ultimately we do need to scale, don't we? We have to get up there, and it's not easy.
No, indeed, it's not easy, and I like the challenges from Philip in the previous slide, so we can have a good conversation around it. I don't want to talk about data again, because I think everybody is aware of the data problem. But just small comment on the data. Data has many dimensions. It's not only availability of data or quality of data, but also it's the whole governance around data and its ontology and life cycle. Because you can have it and then you have problems afterwards. You have problems in the chain afterwards. So let's say we have data foundations to sort out. This includes the data availability, quality, and all the facets with it. But there is also AI foundations, and I would maybe double down a little bit on the AI foundations element. The problem with the agentic AI, I mean, it's the value and the problem. And we're not new for challenges, by the way. We have all encountered new technologies in telecoms, right? And in the beginning, we had a lot of challenges. And as we went through, we solved the challenges one by one, and we decided in some cases to not do things because the challenge outweighs the value. So this will be the same. It's nothing dramatically different, except for the speed. We have not encountered such speed before. So we've always been working on things, and we have like a software update every 2 years. Now we have something new every 2 weeks. What is this pace? And the problem is the pace, much more than it's the exact problems. We will solve these problems. Most of them will be solved one by one. And if we are cognizant about the problems, then this is 50% of the path to solve. So the AI foundations here means that, okay, how do we handle when we deploy agents, let alone development? How do we operate them? If I have a handful of agents, we can manage. There's no big problem because there's no scale. But once we have 100 agents in the network, how would that look like? How do we utilize the MCP servers? Do we use 1 for all tools, 10 for multiple tools, or 1 for every tool? These are design decisions. I'm not claiming that we know that the best answer. We have something that we go through, but I'm not claiming here anything because we have to be humble with AI again. This is one problem. The other problem is the culture, definitely. I mean, you are going to people telling them that you are actually going to automate, but listen, that agentic AI will do your job. So this is also something that we need to be also understanding and also thoughtful about how do we handle and approach that. Because reality is work will change, it's not will disappear. It will change. And then you would have actually to monitor agents. We will not go away. I mean, we will need to monitor agents. We will need still to give the intent to the agents. They will not run completely in autonomy. And we will have long path until we get the agents to work precisely and get the intent we want. So the understanding of the journey itself, the understanding of the challenges, and taking them on is, for me, the most important element when we talk about these elements, these things. And we have been there, and we will continue the journey. So,
I mean, you said there's something new every 2 weeks. At the moment, it feels like every 2 days I'm reading about some new development. It's a crazy cadence there we're seeing. But we should pick up on the skills, because I think this is an area. We covered data a little bit already. But David, let me come back to you, because you mentioned this was an area that interests you as well.
Yeah, and Nabil, you talked about the fact that 85% of POCs fail. So we were, I'll tell you an anecdote about that. So we were involved in a POC last year with a European national service provider. They'd had a solution, a legacy solution in for 30 years, and they wanted an AI-powered solution to replace that. Now, the person who implemented that 30-year-old system was still there, and in fact, he was actually assessing our POC. And at every turn, he compared how our solution compared to the legacy solution. And so he was really blocking the POC in that respect. And in some ways, he was going against their own business case. So I think, these are the kind of obstacles that we need to overcome. And the way that we found from overcoming them, there are always technology evangelists and AI evangelists within an organization. They're the ones that you need to focus on. And even to elevate them within their own organization, because they're the ones that will get you through the POC. So in that case, we were successful, and we're actually doing an implementation there now.
I mean, it's something we've, and thanks for that note there. Every DSP Leaders World Forum event we do, one of the sessions is all about culture, it's about skills. Every cloud native telco event we do, it's about the skills, it's about the culture, it's about the people. People. We lose track of the people at times, we focus on the technology, and the technology is complex. We've just seen the agentic AI slide from Philippe, and it's hugely complex. So any more thoughts about how we continue this never-ending problem of attracting the right talent at the right time for the right roles?
Yeah, so we're seeing emerging skill set requirements for both AI and ML, but also edge experience across Kubernetes, CI/CD, containers. These are the areas that are growth, and I think culturally, leadership needs to support that transformation and development, and also that experimentation within these groups to develop them and encourage them. And fear maybe is another one of that cultural change, and we see very quickly very minor outages in some cases becoming worldwide news. We saw that with AWS, less than an hour an outage in DNS earlier this week, but it's made worldwide headlines. The week before, 100,000 Vodafone subscribers in the UK at home or on the mobile network, again, becoming worldwide news. And we all saw last summer the impact that the CrowdStrike outage had. Again, simply, software changes not being fully tested and rolled out, and the impact of that within 30 days, they'd lost 30 billion of their market value, and thankfully they've recovered. But we're in a world where any simple errors can really make huge global headlines and impacts, which nobody wants. Here at Wind River, and part of our business and our history, and if anyone's flown here on an Airbus or a Boeing, it's highly likely that operating system was based on Wind River, on our real-time operating system. So we know all about sort of keeping systems working without any failures or outages, and we've transferred a lot of that knowledge and experience into our Wind River Cloud platform and orchestration and analytics tool that we provide to the service providers.
I'm just wondering about the types of skills. Obviously, we need a whole range of skills. But Nabil, thinking like your role, if you were tasked with hiring X number of new software engineers, are you looking for like specific AI skills, or is it more important that they can coordinate tools out there and act as this sort of overseer of various tools?
I think I will disappoint you if I don't tell you 3 magic skills. And I don't pretend to come up with something that is, the reality is telling us that the first basic skill is required is leadership. Actually, we don't have a clear, in many cases we see there is no top-down, clear understanding mandate. This is why we need AI, and this is the benefit AI will bring to my company. Use cases, operational efficiency, can be sustainability, whatever. Number 1, clear vision, mandate, top-down, that people follow the same street. So that leadership, sorry, I believe it's relevant. Now, when we come to AI itself, let's look at other industries. Even AI and data, I put them in the same package. Banking, gaming, consumers, there is a lot of progress and return of investment there, right? And this is why the CSP is still saying, hey, I think we discussed, I heard before, about how to generate revenues through AI. So if we want to bring the value, definitely we need AI, data scientists. But to me, based on my humble experience, the key one is that possibility to coordinate different skills. I counted last week, I had a workshop, more than 20 companies, they claim to do anomaly detection. AI, ML, well, very good. Hyperscaler, without naming them, they all claim to do also anomaly detection. If I tell you now, I haven't found one single operator with a snap of fingers able to answer the question, how many subscribers I have who are facing issues in buffering in Netflix and where they are geolocated and where the root cause analysis. To answer this question, you need skills of AI, of ML, of cloud, but most importantly, please let's not forget this, the domain knowledge. What does it mean a drop call? What does it mean the congestion? Is it coming from control plane? Is it coming from user plane? That correlation of data. So this, I really emphasize the domain knowledge combined, partnering or bringing, acquiring skills on AI, ML, that will be the nice cocktail. But it's not like, hey, if I hire the best AI engineer, my business will grow, in my opinion.
It's very good, and you're nodding here. So,
absolutely, absolutely. Actually, one of the things that maybe we also discussed it previously is that the domain knowledge, in my personal view, is more important than the AI knowledge today. Because you can actually, as a company, we can also get people from outside, get companies to help us with AI and data, but no one can help us with the domain knowledge. We need in-house domain knowledge. So if I talk about networks, domain knowledge is number one. The second one, for me, is not the data scientist or the data engineer, is an AI engineer, which is a new term that's coming out, which is something else. It's somebody who takes the problem of a domain and try to create a design of a solution. Then the AI scientist will step in and the data engineer will step in to solve the problem. But I need the designer of that. So this AI engineer type of profile, which is now popping up a little bit here and there, is becoming more and more demanded. So I need these people with knowledge. And usually these people work with the domain knowledge. So either you take the domain knowledge people and evolve them to become the AI engineer without having to know a lot of details behind the data science and the data engineering itself, the AI engineer can become an AI engineer. So we classify that you have three classes. Either you have an exploratory user, a power user, or a developer. Someone can develop things. Well, we want to transition everybody to be at least a power user. Not stop exploring, but use the AI for something. You be able to do it. Use it in your work and use it in your network, in whatever you do. And then some of them will evolve, of course, to be developers or can develop things with AI. Developers, I don't mean developing code, but even using no code to develop solutions. And then the AI engineer comes in that place where you evolve towards that. So, of course, every one of us have a lot of training programs and a lot of different workshops. There's no doubt that everybody of us does that. But what I believe on top is very important is learning by doing. And the experience shows it's a completely different knowledge gain when you actually put more people into the projects. So we started doing that. We have more people. You can really see the ramp up of the knowledge. All the people coming into AI projects knowing nothing about AI, nothing. So almost just ChatGPT, that's their knowledge level. And they come in, and a year through, they become really deep into AI, but by doing. Take the courses you want, people forget. But doing things, you remember, you're in.
Yeah, quite right.
Just to add to that, I mean, I think you said people knowing nothing about AI, but there's also, people who know nothing about OSS trying to move into the space. So the likes of the cloud providers, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Amazons of this world. OSS is full of standards, full of processes, and full of people who operate those processes at the moment. And it's not an easy area to just walk into and take over from the cloud provider's perspective.
True.
If I may add on top of what Ahmed and David, and fully agree, by the way, I always, recently I was discussing about this ramp up and also of capabilities, and my conclusion with the team was, it may take us, as you said, a couple of Gemba projects to acquire, speed up the ramp up on AI ML, but how long it will take you to become core plus RAN subject matter expert?
10 years. So, yeah.
But we tend to think, no, if I hire a couple of AI experts, then problem is solved.
Absolutely.
Experts overnight, yeah.
And I think this is a great real-life example that Ahmed's just given there. So many people are, we've talked about it earlier today, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to be my role's going to be redundant and taken over by AI. But we're absolutely not seeing that. And you've just proven that example in one of the world's biggest operators. And there is a development path, and it is exciting for people to go into this. Companies need to, as I said before, leadership needs to champion this development path for people and encourage them, to take up. And we're all doing it. We're all doing it at home as well. And we heard earlier about coding and the process and how quickly, for example, one of the partners here, can liven up BSS. Right? This is a great example.
I'm just wondering, are some of these new skills we're discussing and new roles? You mentioned there the AI engineer. That's a recent development. Are these skills and people and roles? Okay, I get it for the POCs, I get it for the testing, I get it for the exploratory work. Are they the same people and roles that will then take this and scale for telcos?
Right. Maybe I make a comment here. So in DT, so I'm telling my teams I don't want anybody to put any objectives as proof of concept anymore. So we are not putting that as a that's not an objective. That would be a means towards an objective, and objectives to have minimum viable product or a launch of implementation. So POCs are not an objective anymore. So yes, in my case, in our case, that would be actually, yes, implementation. So that would be the same thing. They have to prove things until it gets to at least one of our markets up and running. When this is up and running, then we want to just scale to other NatCos and so on. Then of course, they can step back and other teams can step in. But yeah, implementation.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's made my day. The end of the POC, maybe. Let's hope. Thanks very much. Let's move on, because another area I do want to cover on this panel is integration. And integration challenges always comes up when we look at new technologies and areas. I'm wondering if you can help me out, and where do we see the greatest integration challenges when we start to embed AI in our existing workflows? Anyone got any thoughts? Want to start us off with on that one? Stasi, have you any think about integration?
It's a challenge because, as I'd mentioned before, a lot of legacy systems, OSS, BSS systems that may be in place maybe are not already AI native and not scalable. And then there's a skill set gap as well. There are umbrella systems out there that can assist and mesh these together, but the partners that have the expertise at doing this and doing it at speed. We had an example with a partner, a customer of ours, an operator in the US. They were facing some end-of-contract challenges with their existing cloud vendor, and part of the fear for them was how long it was going to take, to move from that existing cloud partner. And we used AI and our automation engine to migrate over 24,000 sites after a proof of concept in a period of less than 7 weeks. So that really just proved and demonstrated to them that it was possible to scale and automate the migration. And for them, in terms of savings, per site, they were averaging 3 servers. They've gone down to 1, so significant savings, not just operationally, but also in the energy consumptions.
Thanks, Stasi. Nabil?
Yeah, I think there is no single pattern when it comes to the challenges in integration due to the fact of the complexity of the network and the other fact that Ahmed mentioned, which is speed. We want to run fast, and although we have such complex network, in Nokia, in autonomous network, we have something called the fabric, leveraging the data suite, and that's why we believe having access to the data in 2 dimensions is very important. Multi-domain and multi-vendor. Most of the networks are multi-vendor. So when you integrate, let's say, I know Nokia very well, I know the interfaces, but half of the network, sometimes the entire network is other vendors. So we must have, if we go back to the domain knowledge, to understand how quickly we can integrate whatever is the new AI model, agent, whatever it is. And when it comes to the domain, it's also very, very important when we talk about, and I think we forget go back to the basic, which is where is the business issue we are trying to solve. When you start asking those questions, it can be sustainability, it can be quality of experience, it can be, okay, what is the experience of the gamers? You know, society is changing, how operators' data is consumed is different. And to answer those questions from the business perspective, you end up in the problem that, oh, I need to understand how to integrate to core, how to integrate to RAN, as I mentioned before. And that is a paradigm shift. It's not about the network anymore. Yes, network is important. It's about the centricity of the subscriber. Where is the real experience a user is having? And then to integrate to different interfaces and the platforms, it's becoming a real challenge. If I put again on top of it the speed, I think so, multi-vendor, multi-domain, different platforms. And last comment, if you allow me, I think if you don't do that with the ecosystem of partners, it's mission impossible. So nobody will claim to say, because there are different deployment models. Some they want SaaS, some they want hybrid, they want fully cloud, some they want on-prem. So I think these are complex architecture design issues that are making difficult integration of AI.
Thanks, Nabil. David, from your domain, what do you see as the greatest integration challenges when integrating AI, and how is that kind of holding back the scaling challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to the problem of having clean data and you know, sources from where to acquire that clean data. There's a lot of legacy inventory management systems out there. They're very static. You know, they do discovery maybe once a day. A lot of the data in there is out of date. And if you're going to make business decisions based upon that data, then you're off to a bad start. So I think it's important to have dynamic inventory, federated inventory across the different domains. And of course, you need expertise in each of those domains. If you think about you know, a mobile service, it goes across the RAN, the core, the transport layer. You need to have good data from all of those different domains in order to do end-to-end. We talked about experience management, in order to be able to do end-to-end management of the services across those domains. So I think that's very important.
Thanks, David. Ahmed, any thoughts and ideas on integration challenges?
We look into integration in 3 areas. One area is the inputs to AI, the other area is the output of the AI, and the one within AI itself. So if you talk about scaling, the one within AI becomes profound, because scaling means that I have multiple agents, they're doing different things, and they need to talk to each other. Thankfully, there is A2A coming up, and A2As also have been developed and will develop continuously until it reaches let's say, the best level that we can use, but it's still usable today. This will enable us to make sure that we can scale agents and that agents can talk to each other, so we are not replicating functions, we are reconsuming functions properly. When it comes to the biggest challenge, is, I think already well said, is data. And because data is not just one integration level, that's source, you have to take the data from the sources, you have to put them into ingestion layer, you have to select that. And from the ingestion layer to the data platform, from the data platform upwards to AI, and the AI has a chain, there is a pipeline. So it's a whole set of integration, and this is the most complex part of the integration. The integration towards the network for closed-loop automation is not the biggest worry I see. So that's something that we have well-defined interfaces, we can manage that. So we have a lot of experience with that if we do things. But the data challenge and the AI to AI part.
Well, thanks very much, everyone. Let's bring in our audience, shall we? Because, and question, a hand goes up straight away in the front row. You don't know what I was going to ask you. I'd love to ask our audience, you know, what challenges they see and the problems that they may have.
Yeah, this is a great collective of experts for this question. We talked a lot about AI today, of course, but we haven't really talked a lot about the models themselves. So I would love to get the perspectives from the panel in terms of when it's a good idea to use existing models, when is it a good idea to develop your own models. There's trade-offs in terms of resources and other things that are involved in that. So I'd just love to get a perspective on, because we have operators, network equipment providers, operating system representation. Love to get a perspective on that.
Hey, it's perfect opportunity. Good question. Thank you much indeed. Who would like to tackle that one first?
I think the existing models are a good starting point. So I come across a lot of organizations that have a whole bunch of workflows written and they're based on scripts. And I think, you know, it's difficult to just take a big bang approach to that, right? So you've got to acknowledge that the customer has that already. You've got to put in place a system that can leverage those scripts. And then over a period of time, I think you need to think how you can move away from them. More towards like an agentic AI kind of approach, I think is the best way of doing that. But it's not, I don't see a big bang as being, you know, a good fit for most customers.
Thanks, David.
Maybe if I can, I would agree with David. And actually, if we go back to speed, I mean, the speed of developments in the LLMs and the tiny models and the recursive models, and it's something that we cannot easily keep the same pace. So we should use what's available and then test. And then if it's not satisfactory, then we go to the next stages. So I would say that this phase where we're learning or also monitoring that, we can apply what we have and what we can use from 3 models, other models, available models. And then at a later stage, we can see if there is any need to do those. So I'm not sure who was mentioning, I think Philip was mentioning that was pleasantly surprised that the frontier models have a lot of knowledge about telecom. Today, I mean, I was talking to my boss today by chance, and I was exactly talking about the same thing with him. Because effectively, they have put a lot of information about 3GPP and networks and so on in the corpus of these models. You'd be surprised how knowledgeable they are. So it is not about the fanciness of having my own model and then training my own model, my own data. It sounds nice, but is it really needed? That's a question that we need to check before we get into this, because it can take us into a rabbit hole as well. I mean, you train the model, that once you train the model, there's a new one coming. Should you take the new one and train it again, or should you use that? So that's why I think I would agree with David, that we go with the existing models and only at a later stage you can think about training models.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I agree with what Hafez said, and actually it's a very good question. I would pick up what you said. We are learning. I think that's very, very key, because we start as a baseline with some known models, some existing models. But I would say it depends on each use case. You know, I go back because sometimes we pretend to jump immediately to unsupervised, you know, a model that doesn't require any injection from external knowledge or really to give time to the model to learn. I tested myself some of the correlation of anomalies between core and RAN in different projects. The same customer, different countries, and it was disappointing somewhere, and we had to tune completely the model. So I think that possibility to learn fast and adjust, it's the right answer of combination. But again, sometimes we think. We bring the model and that's it. And just as an anecdote, I was in an escalation call, and I realized we had more engineers than lines of code for one model, because at the end you end up with people just putting knowledge. So I think it's as said by the colleagues, it's a combination of both.
Thanks, Nabil. Stasi, do you want to add?
Yeah, I see sometimes, we mentioned earlier about why so many, the high percentage of POCs not succeeding. And when those models are thought through and the use cases, is the success criteria or the exit criteria, achievable? And is this one of the reasons why so many are failing? Because are we always thinking about the customer, whether that's an internal customer, another department, or the end customer, the consumer? What are these AI models going to bring in the benefits? What's the return of investment going to be? Is it, fewer faults? Is it faster fault resolution, quality of service, for example, improved customer experience, personalized customer experience? These have to be the goals and the end achievements that we're looking to gain to make these use cases successful.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone, for that. Great question. Thank you very much indeed. We have time for another question. Anybody else want to quiz our audience? Or does anybody else think that the challenges we've been talking about are too limited? There's more challenges we haven't yet discussed. Maybe there's something we've overlooked that you're facing.
Questions are free of charge, no?
Yeah, come on. Anything at the back here?
Thank you. So there was a lot of topic about domain knowledge, which is an asset we all have in this room, sitting here, and others might not have. Could you elaborate a little bit? What is the operator part? What is the vendor part there? I remember, Ahmed, one sentence you spoke in the morning about the vendor providing curated documentation that is machine readable.
Right.
So this is a new impulse I've heard for the first time. And I think there's a responsibility on the vendor and on the operator side. How do you see the split?
Right.
Thanks very much.
So I can start. So when we talk about domain knowledge, take the RAN. So when we develop the RAN Guardian, for instance, the first thing that we would do is to find out how do you want to deal with your problem. So the problem statement that what we defined, and then how exactly are we going to deal with it? Which KPIs should we put? How do we monitor these KPIs? Do we create thresholds or boundaries? Do we have a combination of the KPIs to consider? So the logic itself of how you operate the network, how you manage it, how you close loop it, it's all coming from domain experts. Then the AI experts, AI engineers first, which actually take that, so can I put that into a solution? Can I solve it better than the human process? Now I understand the intent and the critical angles. Can I bypass part of the process the human does? Because not always you have to follow the exact same. When you employ machines, and especially agentic AI, you may need to break down things into smaller tasks. Not like humans. Humans are much more intelligent and then can deal with a myriad of tasks and a large chain of thought. AI and agentic AI is not as intelligent as us. So you need to split. How do you split? The split itself is a design that you can get the help of an engineer, an AI engineer. But the domain expert has to explain the problem and how the problem escalates or how the problem is built up. So they have to work together very closely.
So can I just add, when you say, or the question was about machine readable as well, does that mean it's like a JSON structured, is that what you mean by that? Or?
For example, JSON is a very good example, so that's if you define it this way. But I can give you another additional example. The documentation we get, for example, about log files, which everyone, so we say, for example, it describes the latency of the flow. This is a very short sentence. Even an expert, if you're not domain expert in it, you wouldn't understand it. So it's not even today, not even human friendly. So it is an expert friendly. So yeah, that's the one. I know these ones. But if you want to explain that to the agents, you need to explain the relevance of this field, the importance of this field, and if it has a relation with some other parameters. So you need to have much bigger explanation that gives a little bit more context to that attribute. Then the attribute becomes of value. Some other attributes say, so this is a redundant attribute used for X. This is not, because if you go for example, that you have at least for every machine, you have like 10 different types of logs or files that are generated. And then every one of them have 100 attributes. So that's 1,000 attributes. So are they well defined? No, they're not well defined. And I can be challenged here. If any suppliers want to challenge me back, I'm happy to take the challenge because they're not well defined. Some of them, very few are well defined. The rest is not, which makes us a lot of effort. We have projects to actually try to get data explaining this data. So I mean, that cannot be solved easily by the suppliers.
I would like to complement maybe with another analogy. The reason why we believe having the Lego block from the data perspective, which we call data product on the data mesh architecture, because when you have to answer certain use cases or business issues, you know which data you have to send the agent to. And for that design phase, as Ahmed said, it's crucial. It's not even important. It's crucial to have the domain knowledge, the architect who's gonna design the solution. I give you an example. We were looking at, it's multi-vendor, it's not only for Nokia, data product to give an answer through LLM about the video quality. It was a sport event. The operator was complaining that they had a lot of calls about people streaming and video. They were not getting the expected quality. And if you send an agent to go to the counters or the KPIs, like Ahmed was saying, there are KPIs that you would think, oh, they are providing information about, blocking or even there is a counter in video quality. Now, we realize that you have to go to the event session level, correlating the different domain, as I mentioned before. There are KPIs like time to play in video. There are KPIs like negative bit rate. If you are not a domain expert, I can go through the list. I think the list was huge. If you don't have an expert, domain expert saying, hey, look, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, this is what you have to correlate. And by the way, a lot of information behind it. If you have such amount of subscribers in an area like, I don't know, in Allianz Arena, for instance, in Munich, in a football event, to control the video quality of all those subscribers, you need a huge amount of data. Guess what? To get the data from probes, from core, from RAN, you will just pump all the information if someone from hyperscale will say, yeah, bring all the data, please. But from Ahmed perspective, from TCO perspective, he say, it's very expensive. I need the domain expert who will tell me which is the exact information I have to filter out to answer this question so it is an example where we face in the reality why this domain knowledge is important.
Okay, thanks very much. David?
Yeah, and I think your question also raises the problem that we have at the moment with silos. So we have the core team, we have the transport team, we have the RAN team, and when something goes wrong, they all point the finger at each other, right? So I think that's both a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And I think that agentic AI working across all of those domains, eventually, once we get there, once we evolve to that, is a great opportunity to break down those silos.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, David. Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
I have a question, I think.
Oh, is it? Yeah, we can squeeze in a quick one.
Hi, thank you. Forgive me for asking this question, but Dean isn't here and I feel I have to. If I was an investor, a telco investor, and you were the board of a telco, and you told me that 80% of proof of concepts fail to progress, and let's say you're the board of a vendor or the board of a telco, as an investor, I would be starting to think, why are you spending 80% of this time on this activity? Why is so much effort going into something which is demonstrably not working? Because if you listen to Danielle, when she was talking about it, she said, everything's got a target and we're testing it within 4 weeks. When you listen to George Glass earlier, he was saying, agentic AI is great, and Philippe was saying great and powerful, but it's exposing a lot of danger. Think 20 times before you get into it. Why is there so much proof of concept? Why not more proof of value? Why not more integrated, clear targets? Why?
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
Emperor's New Clothes question.
Let's ask a question.
I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but I think it's a very important question.
Right, we're asking. Who wants to go first?
Well, I can help here if you want.
Go on then. Ahmed, you go.
It wasn't my statement, by the way, so it wasn't a big statement, but I agree with it.
Okay.
It happens.
It's documented.
No, it's documented. I'm just joking. It was joking, so that's not attributed to us. But there are reasons. If your target is to have a proof of concept from the beginning, then there is a likelihood that you fail, because you haven't really looked into the problem statement, the business owners, and you haven't thought it through. If I'm successful, what would I do? And these usually, and that's why we try to change the mentality there, say, no, the objective is to implement it. The proof of concepts is just your path to prove it before you go implementation, like testing. But you do not go, and that's not an objective, because if I do 1,000 proof of concepts, that is zero value on the business. I need to implement. So, and we have found out that just changing that perspective flips the coin. So 80% is success, not 80% is a failure, because that's not objective. So now the teams have to think, okay, so what is the problem I'm solving? What's the business value? What is that? Can I implement? Who I'm implement with? Where? Where are the integration points? So they go through these all problems before they start. They don't start and go to the lab and then see maybe a good coincidence will happen and by magic we implement. No, they go the other way around. So this is how we try to solve the problem of proof of concepts, not seeing the light of the day. But yeah, I mean, I'll leave them.
I really love the question and for being bold. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Let me challenge you something. And I love your POC zero concept. I will adopt it, okay, for your information. Will you buy something from me without POC?
Well, no, but actually,
there you have the answer.
No, but I would not even start to discuss with you unless I have a plan to implement it. And I stop a lot of suppliers from coming to me telling me proof of concept. If I do not have an assurance that from Nokia, what you offer me. Okay, so I have a problem here? Or?
Yeah, just use that mic.
So if I, for example, you come to me, say, Ahmed, I'm going to sell you an anomaly detection solution, and I do not have a plan to implement it, I will not make a proof of concept with you.
Implement it, you mean commercially, deploy
commercially, launch it. So basically you're right, but it's on step in the past, like testing. So I need to make sure that you are giving me something of value. But I tell you, and I'm really honest on that, we stop a lot of proof of concepts and we don't even go through them because we do not see the outlook for implementation. So I save the suppliers' time and our time. I say, guys, I don't see that we're going to do something, so better not. And I block a lot of them. I mean, there are suppliers here, they can witness that. So yes, we don't do.
It's great. Yep. Sorry.
No, I think, Andrew, it's I think he said it. Sometimes it looks very easy, very nice on the slideware. Then you want to execute it, and they say, "Okay, give me a POC." Halfway, we even don't get the data, security, whatever, and then it failed. But it's like a pre-requirement. And I think if we don't have clear understanding what we are after, sometimes it's like a fashion, business. Like last year it was about AI. The year after was about Gen AI. Next year about agentic AI. How many of you were involved in RPA robotics, blockchain, self-optimizing network? So, but it's like we are forced to bring AI and implement it. Otherwise we would be a failing company. But then when we go to the customers, they said, "Hey, to get the investment from shareholders, as you mentioned, I need to prove the value. I need to go back and show them I run a POC. And I tell you where I've been having this, and finally it's changing in energy. I tell you, we have a very mature product, energy efficiency. It's shown. The electricity bill is dropping. But they say, no, you have to prove it in my network. I have to go back and prove it. Then you run many POCs without getting into the commercial. But I would like to emphasize, in many cases there is a systemic issue. There is no roadmap like saying, we have to agree on success criteria. Many times we start POCs without even understand what we are looking for. But now, if we have the success criteria, hey, if we are successful, you're having this impact in my operations, financial, whatever is the KPI, SLA, then you have this roadmap. There is a commitment to deploy. I think this is one of the reasons why it has been failing as well.
Great, fantastic. This is really good. Nastasi?
I think it's a great question, Andrew. And for me, I think it shows the desire in telecoms to innovate, right? So the percentage, whatever it might be, 50, 60, 80%, that's not a problem, right? Because we want to innovate, we want to constantly improve. Some of the POCs, there may be one that's failed that had certain exit criteria, didn't meet it, but the parallel one did, right? So we're continually improving, we're continually innovating, and improving the success rate of those POCs. Yes, we need to do more because this is how we're learning, this is how we're innovating.
Yeah, but sometimes I've been involved with quite a few POCs. Your 85% figure sounds about right to me. That you meet all the success criteria, but it still doesn't go anywhere. So it's a great question to raise that. And I think, so what I insist on now when we get involved with a POC is that there's a path to revenue for us as an OSS vendor. And so we don't just need to be confident that we can meet the success criteria. We need to understand that there's a real business problem behind that we're going to solve that's, at the end of the day, going to either save money for the customer or improve their chances of revenue with it. So,
yeah. Thanks very much, David. Yeah, please.
I want to add a quick one. So there are exceptions when it comes to R&D, just to give the complete picture. R&D and research for long term, they are allowed to do proof of concept to prove technologies, but these are very limited and very controlled. So it's not in the scope here, but just to make sure that the answer is complete.
Good point. Great. Thanks so much for the question. We are pretty much out of time for this panel, out of time for day one. We're in overtime. But before we go, because you're here next to me on the stage, we spoke briefly at the beginning of the day, and we look back, I got my year slightly wrong, but we look back at the origin of AI native and what we need to do. And we've been talking all day about what we need to do to move it towards reality. What's your quick thoughts at the end of like a day of presentations? You've been sat here for the day. Are we talking about the right things? Are we moving things forward as fast and as safely as you think we should?
If I look back 2 years when we started discussions on AI in this forum, I see we have really gone a long way through. So, and also when I hear the developments and the thoughts and the maturity of thoughts, at least, and thinking and directions from all presenters here and from people around, the people I talk to, we are actually going in the right direction. And the good thing is that we're also sharing with each other what we see and what value we see and how can we approach challenges. And it's not a problem, by the way, to have skepticism around AI. This skepticism also helps us to adjust and tune and move around the problems and understand them. So I really see that we're going well, and I think also this forum is also playing a good role there, so thanks. Yeah,
fantastic, fantastic. That's it for today. A huge round of applause, please, for all our panelists. Thank you very much.